Hey, this is Regina Y Favors with the new series, Shake the Dust Off Your Feet. Why it is important to realize when people are provoking a response and how to set boundaries. This series really is an important series because many of us have come across people who have been jealous or envious of us, and we didn't necessarily detect that particular jealousy or envy. We just assumed the person was having a mood, or the person didn't like a particular accomplishment that we got, but we were not in the mind frame of suggesting, hey, they must be jealous of us. Not everyone walks around thinking that he or she that a fellow friend is a friend who is an enemy at the same time. And so when you are confronted with people of all categories in all environments, including workforce environments, who are provoking a response, they want to see you angry. They want to see you upset. And what it is that they are addicted to a certain level of chaos that when they poke the bear, they want to see that person kind of emotionally blow up. And it's almost like a person who sets fire to something and then stands back and watches it go, watches the flames go all up in the air. And they have the opportunity and the resources to put the flame out, but they refuse. So this is the same way in certain types of toxic relationships where you find yourself oftentimes being provoked without realizing you are being provoked. Sometimes people don't always know your past. Sometimes people don't always know your triggers. They don't know what sort of emotional background, mental health background, psychological, spiritual, religious background you come from. And so sometimes they can say something that is triggering that only you truly know about. However, when you have someone who does know your history, or you have told that person your history, your struggles, anything that you have said in passing, and sometimes just because you needed a friend, when they turn around and try to use uh, your particular struggles and issues against you by provoking you to anger, that is a person that you're going to either have to learn how to set boundaries with, have a talk, have a discussion, or you're going to have to walk away from um, that particular friendship, relationship, even a family relationship. Because one of these days, what people often do is they end up escalating. They'll start in one way just to see what you do. If you don't do anything, then okay, they'll start another way. They'll come at you from a different angle. And then if it looks like you're bothered, say for instance, they say something, oh, yeah, yeah, that's a nice dress on you, but I mean, I don't know if you should wear that there, and then it kind of bothers you. But then you come to an understanding and say, well, maybe you're right. But then if they started attacking your weight, or they are attacking your hair, or attacking your job choices, your education choices, anything like that, and that really does bother you to the point that you go silent and don't respond, now they know that they can pull at that again. Because people who love to say, oh, I was just joking, they're never really joking. There's truth in how they are treating you through that joke. And so when you are confronted with these types of people, it's going to escalate. Eventually, it's going to escalate. It's going to be one thing to get you, and then you calm down, another thing to get you, then you have a discussion, then quite another thing until it snowballs into something and you find yourself blowing up. The next blow up could be that you end up having a heart attack. You end up being so mad and upset that you have a crash. You end up having to check yourself into a mental health facility because still people don't always know the extent of your triggers. And then the obvious blow up could be you end up going to jail, right? Because you have committed some kind of violence in response. So when you listen to this audio, shake the dust off your feet, why it is important to realize when people are provoking a response and how to set boundaries. Think about this scripture here. This is the scriptural basis. If any place will not welcome you or listen to you, shake the dust off your feet. Matthew 10:14. And this is found in the New Testament, where Jesus sends out the disciples to particular towns and cities and environments. And if they found that that particular place did not receive them, Jesus told them to shake the dust off their feet and leave. Don't linger, don't stay around, don't hope that the people will begin to receive you. No, shake the dust off your feet. So I want you to consider this scripture. If any place will not welcome you or listen to you, shake the dust off your feet. I want you to listen to this and consider the scripture and think about those particular people in your life, family, friendship, romantic relationships, where these people are provoking a response. Consider the types of provocations that I go through in this particular lesson too. So this is shake the dust off your feet. Why it is important to realize when people are provoking a response and how to set boundaries. Is subject to fair use because there is inclusion of free internet pics and then reference to psychology terms. So all of the information in terms of those free pics and psychology terms are subject to fair use. So when someone is trying to provoke you, a lot of times they are people provoke you to anger, and they have set a goal for how they're going to engage you, and so the goal is to get you to perform. The performance is the anger expression. However it is that you express anger. If you've ever expressed anger negatively in front of someone, they are watching you. They're paying attention to what you're doing and how you are carrying yourself. And so if they feel like they can do it, if they see someone else causing you to be angry and they want their opportunity too, they're going to try to take that opportunity. And it can be in some really benign situation. You can just be in the house talking, and then all of a sudden they throw a dart. So here are two psychology terms that I want you to think about. And it's part of these two psychology terms are part of the goal orientation theory. And so there are two of multiple types of goal orientations. One is learning goal orientation, or LGO. The second one is performance goal orientation, PGO. So for learning goal orientation, it is defined as the tendency for people to learn from failure in pursuit of mastery and competence. So these are the people who will not be plagued by this idea of failing something. They don't consider themselves a failure. Failure is oftentimes the end of the road of your life, like a condition. Just because you failed a test doesn't make you a failure. Failing something and failure are two different types of conditions, or two different types of life life incidents. And so then this type of person would be the type of person who still wants to pursue mastery of the situation, not mastery over someone, but mastery in terms of understanding. Now, these are terms that are specific to the academic environment. There may have some extension to the workforce environment, but they are primarily tailored to the academic environment, how children learn, basically, right? So then the performance goal orientation is the tendency for people to compare themselves to others while focusing on demonstrating and performing competence. They're not actually pursuing competence, they're trying to perform competence. So it's the type of person who won't study for a test, right? They may do a quick crash, try to figure out the nuts and bolts of a particular concept or theory or whatever, but they won't try to get a good understanding. The person with a learning goal orientation would do their best to try to get a good understanding. They want to master the subject matter. In essence, if you want to become a doctor, you're going to do more studying than anybody. Doesn't mean that other people don't do more studying as well in their particular fields. It's just that it's so much mastery that you have, it's so much knowledge that you have to master, and you have to actually be competent in the field. Otherwise, you will be removed from the field. When it comes to performance, however, these are people who just basically want to look smart. There's a slide after somewhere in this presentation. Um, about having a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And so these are people who just basically want to look smart. They don't really want to be smart. They don't care to know the information, but they want to perform competent. So you got a lot of that is going on right now. People who want to get into political positions of power and authority, but they know nothing. They went to the best schools in the land, but when they are plagued with problem solving opportunities, they don't want to do it. They push the issue off to the next person, then to the next person. That's the reason why we have the migrant crisis that we have today. That the Republicans didn't want to resolve the issue, so they pushed it on the Democrats to the sanctuary cities. So when they are provoking you to anger, instead of provoking you to anger, they should try to understand the issue. That would encourage a learning goal orientation. But what they would rather do is see you perform. They would rather see you get all upset, turned around, um, um, and try to pretend that they are there for you. They are the same people who caused the problem, and then try to also be there, in terms of, okay, I'm here for you. I'm sorry, I didn't know that bothered you. Sure, you did. You didn't know that bothered me because I told you that it bothered me before, and you're trying to still push this idea that you're helping me, but you're not actually helping me. So people provoke you to anger. The goal is to get you to perform, is to be basically entertainment for them. Somewhere they are struggling in themselves with whatever they are struggling with, and instead of addressing their own issues, adopting a learning goal orientation for their own issues to try to figure out what's going on, they would rather adopt a performance goal orientation where they perform provoking, and then they perform it with the expectation that you're going to be provoked to anger, and so then they can start the fire in you and let you just flame up, let you just burn up. Now it's up to you to manage you, but that's really what is going on here. So people provoke you to anger. The goal is to get you to perform. People provoke you to rebound. To rebound, meaning that that's their actual purpose, to rebound you. So then the goal is to rebound, return, and rebound again. They don't really want you, they don't want a relationship with you, but they keep you at arm's length just in case the situation with whomever they are with turns goes sour, and then they can turn around and return to you. So when they provoke you to rebound, they provoke you in a sense that you see many YouTube videos where men will try to make a woman get mad on purpose just so he can break up with her or go off and be with whomever he wants to be with. And then once that particular situation has ended, then he'll try to rebound back to the original partner, the core partner. So the goal is to rebound, return, and rebound again. Now, rebound and rebounding are two different types of terms, but they do have their root in the idea of rebound. So to rebound, or rebound defined, is to spring back, to come back from a slump, to bounce back after hitting something. So this is usually a term that is attributed to sports, right? Rebounding. And it's usually, I think, for basketball. And then rebounding is actually a psychology term. It's a studied, measured scholarship on rebounding and rebound relationships, etc. And so it is to start a new relationship before emotionally healing from a recent breakup. And that's usually if you just broke up with someone and within 6 months you have now found another person, that is a state of rebounding. That is not you searching for new love because you're still tied to the previous person. There's still emotions there. And you know that to be true when you get into the new relationship and all of a sudden the old partner calls in about 2 or 3 months, and and then you decide to go back to that partner, spend time with that partner, okay, realize it's not working out, and then try to go back to the core partner that you just now established a relationship. The new partner that you have established a relationship is actually a rebound. It's not a core partner. Because if the person was a core partner, you wouldn't need to cheat on the person. You wouldn't need to rebound to the ex. And the ex, then, if you're going back and forth with the ex is not truly an ex. So in these dynamics, then, in this particular relationship dynamic, there's a false sense of security. emotional security in a relationship. Someone in the relationship believes it is a relationship, and someone in a relationship believes that it is not a relationship, and that person is not telling the truth. So the relationship is false. It's a rebound relationship. It's not going to work. Even if you no longer wanted to be with the other people, somehow when people realize that they have been a rebound the whole time, something in them changes. Something in their heart changes. They can't see the relationship in the same way. And the more you go back and forth with an ex, the more you continue that tie, that emotional soul tie, and you are up under the false impression that it is a soulmate situation. That's why you keep going back. No, if it was something that you truly believed in and wanted to work out, you would not entertain other people. I know this is coming from a woman saying this, but many men have said this too. That if you have a partner who's going back to their ex or to a certain woman more than once, then there's something going on in that situation, and that person still has love. Your partner still has love for that ex partner or that other person. So instead of getting out of the relationship with you, they provoke you so that they can rebound. That's really what's going on. They provoke you so that they can rebound. Because they know that if they go and do whatever they're going to do with that person, they know that you're going to be there because you're the stable person. You're the calm. They can come back to you as a safe haven. And that's why I say we need to push as women this idea that we are no longer rehabilitation centers. We are not homeless shelters. We're not places where men can nest and rest and be homosexuals and squatters in our lives until the person that they really want to be with, uh, that person becomes available. No, if we have to make very strong decisions that we don't want to make, we're either going to stay in a relationship where the person is going to continue to cheat, or we're going to plan the exit out of that relationship for the person who wants to continue to cheat. It's one or two things. There's no in between, because the person is still going back and forth, and they are going to stay with that decision as long as you permit it. And a lot of times, I know people love to say that we teach people how to treat us, right? At the same time, there are people who want to treat you wrong regardless. No matter how many boundaries you set with that person, no matter how many times you try to sit them down, no matter how many times you cry, no matter how many times you kick them out. And I may be kind of negating my own argument here. At the same time, however, they want to mistreat you. They want to mishandle you. They see that you are the right person for them, but they don't care. They want to do whatever they want to do. And when that happens, you can become a perpetual rebound, because what happens is they'll keep going back and forth between you and the other person. And then what they'll do is hold on to you two, because they've made up their mind somewhere that you don't know that they are not going to be with you. And they'll keep using you both. One, you would be the person that they use for house and sex, and then the other person that they were rebounding with would be the person that they use for kinky sex or something like that. And both people will be on hold and become rebound status while that man pursues a whole different new person. And that's the person that he ends up marrying, right? So people provoke you to rebound. They provoke you in such a way so that they can rebound. And the goal is to rebound, return, and rebound again. So if you don't want to become a perpetual rebound, you need to really reassess your engagement with that particular person, because it's not working. Provoke you to setback. So the goal is to set you back. So setback and then setback are two different types of terms. One is a verb and one is a noun. And if you've ever been in a setback, because I've been in a setback, I went through a setback. My setback actually happened much earlier, but I'm going to say from 2006 to 2013 is when I had to go through my correction because of a disobedience in 2000. So really the setback actually began in 2000. I was financially set back. emotionally, spiritually set back because I was in a state of disobedience. I had moved in unequally yoked with a roommate. And so that situation happened, and then life caught up with me in 2006, and that's when my correction began. So that I ended up losing my place, having to move in with family, go back and forth to homeless shelters, different types of things that were going on at that time. And so then I kind of came out of it 2013, and I had a post correction process between 2013 and I don't know, 2021, something like that. Within that time, I met a devil, and that person, and that happened between 2013 and 2016. And so dealing with him set me back. Not only the situation with the friendship set me back, but dealing with him, because when I come out of homelessness, struggling in correction, I didn't need to get involved with a a romantic relationship. As a matter of fact, I wasn't even looking for it, but he was looking for it because he was looking for a place to stay. So here it is, I'm in another setback. And so then he's going back and forth with an ex, trying to make things work with her. She don't want to make things work anymore. So then that's affecting my health. That whole situation just affected my mental health. It affected my regular health. I started gaining weight, losing my hair, all different types of things. I was losing money. It set me back financially. So when you think about setback as a verb and then setback as a noun, think about it like this. So here are the definitions: delay or impede the progress of someone or something. So that's hold up, slow down, hold back. And then setback as a noun, a reversal or check in progress. Event that delays your progress or reverses some of your progress. So if you made a decision, I'm gonna pursue financial stability, and then you turn around and go get multiple credit cards, that's an event that delays your progress or reverses some of your progress. It doesn't mean that you can't get a credit card. What it means is that the event is a decision that you are making. So instead of getting five, get one and start to rebuild your credit. Okay. Event could be also the fact that you decided to move in a brother, move in a sister, move in a family member who is not productive, who causes a lot of dissension, a lot of chaos. That can be an event that delays your progress. If you have dealt with, if any of you have dealt with a homosexual, a person is looking for a place to stay, and will use sex to get into your house so that person can have a place to stay, that's an event that delays your progress or reverses some of your progress. Because if that's an old thing you struggled with in the past, where you might have moved in a partner or you did a live-in situation and that's not what you want to do anymore, then that's an event that is reversing or delaying your progress because it's an old thing. If you find yourself returning to toxic relationships and you're trying to figure out how in the world did this happen, here it is, I'm 40, 50 years old, and I'm still entertaining these types of relationships, and they can be in the forms of friends, family, and romantic relationships. It doesn't always have to be a sexual relationship, but you realize how did this happen? Because it's something that you did not address within yourself. And the person who that you keep taking in is just a certain kind of spirit that wants to delay you. That person just has a different face for the season in your life. So that person is going to hold you up. That person is going to slow you down. That person is going to hold you back. If you see women trying to do something with their life, have a business with their life, and then they meet a devil, and that devil, instead of trying to be a contributor to that woman's life, he puts a bunch of babies in her. That's slowing her down. That doesn't mean that she can't accomplish what she wants to accomplish, but he purposefully set her back. She set herself back in making a decision to be with him and accept him at his potential state, and he set her back because of sheer jealousy. He didn't like the fact that she was doing something with her life. She got an education. She was trying to be something, right? So then he delayed her on purpose. He holds her up. He holds her up with going back and forth with an ex, or going back, or not keeping a job. Every time she turns around, he quits his job. He'll get the job and go good for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden he wants to quit. Or he'll stay on it for 2 or 3 months, and all of a sudden he wants to quit. A lot of times there are outside influences for why he's getting that job and quitting it. Sometimes it has a lot to do with the person still dealing with an ex, and the ex is telling him that if you want to get me back, you got to get a job. So then he goes and get a job. But then the ex tells him, "Well, I don't like the job you have. You need to get a better job." So then he purposefully quits that job. So here it is. He's taking you through a roller coaster, and you don't really know what's going on. And so all of that is a setback. All of that is it is setting you back in terms of verbal, and it is a setback for you because now you got to pull yourself out of whatever is going on that you don't even know what's going on. So people provoke you to setback. The goal is to set you back, however way they do it, however way they do it. Because if you're set back, if someone creates a situation where you end up in a hospital, or that's your death, there's no recovery after that. At least if you're in the setback, you can reassess and pull yourself out of it and recover and restore back to your life. But if something happens where you can't do that anymore, that's it. So that's what I want you to think about, because people will provoke you to setback because their goal is to set you back. Here's the fixed mindset discussion. This is also a psychology term where Carol Dweck is defining the differences between fixed mindset and growth mindset in her Changing Our Mindset chart. And you can conduct a Google search to find that information. So people provoke you to adopt a fixed mindset. The goal is to get you to pursue what's more convenient. And so people don't like challenges. They honestly just don't like. Most people would rather, if you just give it to them, it will be a much better thing. But then there are some people who actually like challenges. They like to learn. They want to do better, right? They don't want to live in a certain kind of way. Not everybody is gung ho about learning something new, or or adopting the challenge to learn and stick with the course and things like that. Things get hard. The average athlete still might like to run, jump, and play ball and things like that, but that athlete knows that he or she has to get out there every day and train that body, and discipline that body, and learn about their own body. And not all they don't always want to do that, but they do it because they know that's what they have to do. And so the goal, when a person is provoking you to a fixed mindset, their goal is to get you to accept what's coming. Why do you need college? Why can't you just be a good person? Why can't you just go and go get a good job? Why can't you just go to the military? Why do you have to go to college? What's wrong with going to college? All college is this is what I tell people all the time. All college is that you have so much knowledge that you have a knowledge base, a base of knowledge, everything all the way leading up to high school graduation. So then where are you going to take yourself? Where are you now going to take yourself? Are you going to take yourself to a professional arena, another type of workforce arena, a college arena, a military arena? But you got to add to your knowledge base. It doesn't make any sense for you to think that you can still operate with the current knowledge base you have when it's already limited in the world that you have to operate. The college the uh, diploma is the minimum you need to have. You still need to have more understanding, more knowledge, more discipline, more skill, right? So why is it that you're pushing this idea that college is not important? All college is just reading and writing, testing, and expanding your knowledge base. And it's also building skill development. Uh, it's discovering your gifts and talents, and developing in those gifts and talents if you already know what they are. And so each time you take a class, it brings insight into who you are. Each time you test, it brings insight to into how you what your capability is, what your capacity is, so that when you get to the place that you want to be in life, whether it's a business owner, a CEO of a company, a teacher, a lawyer, whatever it is, you will know who you are those first 4 development years of college. So let's look at the definitions between fixed mindset and growth mindset. Fixed mindset is essentially, and this is about intelligence. Intelligence is set and potential is determined at birth. So whatever you believe you are when you were born, that's all you believe you will ever be. There's no other potential beyond that. While growth mindset is intelligence can be developed and potential is unknown. So potential, you don't fully know your potential until you continue to apply yourself, right? That your intelligence is not set at birth, that it can grow and develop. So then the chart actually has about 6, 7 additional rows. I only took about the next two ones. So with fixed mindset works the same way as the performance goal orientation. You like to look smart in every situation. It doesn't mean that you're actually smart. You just like to look like you're smart. People measure whether or not you are smart uh, by the suit you're wearing, how well you look clean cut, how well you wear your hair, if you are pretty. People automatically assume that people who look like they're smart are actually smart. But let them start talking. And a lot of times they are not as smart as it seems, or as they appear. So then the growth mindset person would not be so much concerned about looking smart in every situation. That person would be willing to stretch and take risks to improve learning. So if there's an issue that they are having, here it is, they got 25 questions on a test and 20 they continue to get right. No matter what, they just continue to get right. They have built skill for it, they understand it, they can apply their understanding. But the last five are the five that they struggle with and they can't figure it out and they don't know why. And so that's where they begin to stretch themselves, which means they are embracing the challenge of trying to figure out why they are struggling with the five. Whereas the fixed mindset would avoid the challenge altogether, because these are the fixed mindset are the types of people who like to say, I'm an A student. I'm an A student. Okay, that doesn't mean that they're not an A student, but they're not willing to take the risk to take another class to challenge them more, because they feel like if they took that class they could fail it, and that failure would mess up their uh, personal perception of themselves, right? They perceive themselves as an A student. They don't want to take any class that's going to challenge them beyond that, because then that A may drop down to an A minus. The A minus may drop down to a B plus, and so on. So people provoke you to adopt a fixed mindset because wherever they are in life, that's where they want you to be. And sometimes it's not as offensive as it seems. Sometimes people have this ideal about you that you and we're cousins, we're friends, childhood friends, and we're going to grow up together, go to the same school together, go to college together, get married, have kids, have houses, have husbands, and that's it. They don't want any much more than that. But the person, one of the people in that childhood friendship wants more. That person wants to become a doctor. That person wants to perform surgery. That person wants to do much more than just be married. And there's nothing wrong with just wanting to be married and being a homemaker, as long as that's truly a goal that you want for yourself. But if it's a goal for you, you can't criticize someone else who wants something else. They may want that plus to be a world renowned scholar or something like that. So people provoke you to adopt a fixed mindset because they want you to be in a place of convenience. They don't want you to necessarily stretch and grow and improve and embrace challenges, because they're not the types of people who do that. People provoke you to share in degeneracy. So the goal is to compromise you. And with compromise, there's compromise in a positive sense, and then there's compromise in a negative sense. The compromise, if there are two arguments on the table and both of you are struggling, the goal would be to now take out two sheets of paper, try to figure out what's going on, and then draw the equivalent of a Venn diagram or a grid or something like that that will help you to best understand where you both can meet in the middle. That compromise, there's nothing wrong with that type of compromise. But compromise in the form of degeneracy, where you see this push today in marital relationships to bring in a third party, that's compromising. That's degeneracy. One of the partners is struggling with sex, and they thought in marrying you, it was going to resolve the sex issue when it did not resolve the sex issue. that the sex issue is still there. And they think just because they're married and they step out and have sex with someone else, well, I'm married, so it's okay. No, it's not, because you are having marital sex and then you are fornicating with another person outside of the marital home. It doesn't matter if you both agree to bring in another person into the bedroom, it's still considered fornication. So you're both fornicating with the third party while you are also married. And that's the blinding aspect of people that they don't understand. They think that the marriage covers and protects them from any of the consequences that will come along as a result of a certain type of decision. Well, the third party that you decide to bring into the bedroom could easily have feelings for the woman or the man, the husband or the wife. Then what happens after that? So people provoke you to share in degeneracy. A lot of times, sometimes think they ever wanted you. If they want you, if they want to compromise you, why would a person who wants you as a friend, wants you as a family member, wants you as a romantic relationship, why would any of those people want to compromise you? What is it in it? What is it in them that wants to compromise you? Not only are they compromising themselves, but they feel like they need to lower your value some way. So let's look at compromise as a noun and then compromise as a verb. So compromise as a noun is an agreement or settlement of a dispute that is reached by each side by making concessions. And then compromise as a verb is you accept standards that are lower than is desirable. If your standard is to be in a marriage with your husband, that's it, and you decide to accept the new standard that your husband says, hey, we need to bring in a third person, you are compromising. And that's not for the better, right? If you believe in a marriage that should not have any kind of infidelity at all, any kind of cheating, including emotional cheating, and that applies to you as a woman as well, and you decide to emotionally cheat with your quote unquote work husband, then you have accepted a standard that is lower than is desirable, because you can't get mad at your husband for being upset with you emotionally cheating with your work husband. It's not fair to your husband, it's not fair to you, it's not fair to the marriage, it's not fair to the family unit, right? That's why it's very important that you take the time to heal before you decide to marry or decide to get involved with someone. Because all of us, even if we don't subscribe to cheating and infidelity and everything, all of us are still capable of doing something. And all you need is the wrong environment, the wrong opportunity, the wrong timing, the wrong situation, and you can fall. We can all fall. And so that's why you have to understand what your standards are. And a lot of times, if we would have waited to get into relationships, even not even in high school, but just kind of waited to get into relationships, find out who we are as individuals and people, and figure out what our core values are, our standards are, I don't think we would have gotten into so many hasty relationships that could have caused our lives, that could have been detrimental to our lives. But one thing I want you to remember is that compromise means agreement. So whatever you are doing that you don't want to do, you are walking in agreement with that person. If you don't want to walk in agreement with that person, then it's time for you to make a decision to disagree. Now you can sit at the table, have some coffee, talk about it, figure out what you're going to do. But if the other person decides that he or she wants to continue uh, um, doing what they want to do, meaning that they are in agreement with some external force, then it's time for you to exit that situation, because it's going to end up being deadly to you and your life. And so there's a scripture, Amos 3, I think. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Can two walk together unless they agree? So if you stay in abusive relationships, you may not have agreed with the first hit or the second hit or the third hit, but if you're continuing to stay, and we are in 2024 and we have many, 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 many more resources available to us than the women of our past, and you decide to stay in that relationship, that's walking in agreement. Even if the person hits you once and you return, that's walking in agreement. And if you put it on that level, because people love to try to put it on this victim level, uh, don't accuse the victim, don't try to make the victim feel bad. No one is trying to make the victim feel bad, but the victim needs to understand logically and psychologically what is going on, and spiritually, because this is a spiritual thing after a while, that something, some spirit is in that person, that is, that wants to hit you and um, mistreat you and berate you, punish you, do whatever that person needs to do in terms of bringing you down. That's a spirit, and that's a demonic spirit. And as long as you stay in that relationship, you're walking in agreement with that spirit. Your spirit is walking in agreement with that spirit. So it's not an easy situation to get out of all the time, but it is something that you're going to have to make a decision about, regardless. If you don't think about compromise in any kind of way, think about it in terms of agreement. People provoke you to abandon, so that means to abandon you, right? The goal is to get you to abandon your gifts and talents. So they're trying to get, not only do they provoke you to abandon you, but they also get you to try to abandon what's going on within you, right? And so if you think about this pic here with the abandoned building, someone made a decision somewhere on their journey, or some company made a decision somewhere on their journey that they were no longer going to contribute to the health and soundness of that building. I don't know. And it could have been that they decided to turn off all the water, the electricity as the first step. Well, that would be obvious, because if no one is living in the building, then it should not be surfaced, right? But somewhere, someone decided that we're not going to paint the walls. We're not going to sweep the floor anymore. We're not going to wash the windows. We're not going to make it at least tidy and nice, just in case we want to sell the building. I mean, we could decide to sell the building. Let's keep the building nice. No, somebody or some company or some entity decided that they were no longer going to be a contributor to that particular building anymore. And therefore, time and chance, opportunity, seasons, rain, sleet, and snow, weather, natural disasters, anything you want to attach to how it now looks, attach as a contributor to how it now looks. This is the result of what abandoning looks like. When you abandon your gifts and talents, you deteriorate. It's like there's a scripture in the Bible, when the tree branch is away from the vine or something like that. That once that tree branch falls to the ground, it begins the withering process. It'll start getting old. The leaves will start to become a different color or something like that. Some leaves will fall off. Okay, that's no different than your life. For those of you who are Christian, when you abandon your walk with God, you start looking so much differently, right? You don't have the same mindset. You don't have the same heart. Your heart grows bitter. How you deal with people is completely different. You are running away from God. When you look at your gifts and talents, if you're not working your gifts and talents in some kind of way every day or the majority of your walk, you're going to wither away. You'll see when you are operating in your gifts and talents, there's so much insight. There's some gleam in your eyes. There's patience and long suffering and passion. You can see it. You talk about it all the time. It's hard for you have people who always ask you, why you always got to talk about that, right? And so when a person is trying to get you to abandon, they abandon you somewhere. They have abandoned you, even if they're still in the house. They have abandoned you. They have abandoned you emotionally or psychologically or financially or something like that, right? But then preoccupying you with how they are abandoning you preoccupies you with now you starting the process of abandoning your gifts and talents. Because as soon as they attack you on your gifts and talents, you stop. They don't like the fact that you are doing it. So then they begin to prick at your heart. They begin to pull at you. They criticize you. They do all different types of things to try to get you to stop. And then somewhere you stopped because you're so busy wanting to please them. It's like you are afraid to walk in your gifts and talents. It's like you have to apologize for it. The irony is the people who are trying to get you to abandon your gifts and talents, they feel free in doing whatever it is that makes them feel free. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are operating in their gifts and talents, and sometimes they are. It's like the husband who wants to be the leader of the house, and he is, and he's head of house, and he wants to thrive in whatever he's doing. But as soon as you decide that you want to have just a mere hobby, all of a sudden he gets upset. He doesn't want you to do it. I want you to be the mother. I want you to be my wife and the mother of our children and take care of the home, and that's it. And so the more that you do that, the more you find yourself kind of lessening in your abilities, your power, your passion, your heart, right? So let's look at two terms: jealousy and envy. There are two, and I think I heard this from someone, but I ended up having to interpret it for my understanding. So jealousy, I don't like the fact that you have this gift and talent, and my goal is to influence your process and affect your progress. Let me read that again. I don't like the fact that you have this gift and talent, and my goal is to influence your process and affect your progress. So the best way to understand that, say for instance, I tell you that I'm going to be writing this summer, right? And I'm a good writer, right? A great writer. And then you know that I'm writing, and you know when I'm writing because I ran my big mouth and told you when I was writing. And so instead of leaving me alone within that set block of time, you decide to come to the house and say, hey, let's just relax. Let's just watch some TV. But I'm telling you that I need 8 to 12 to write. I can meet with you at 1 p.m. to 5, but let me have 8 to 12. So that's affecting your process. That's influencing your process. And the more that person continues to come to your house and calls you and tries to distract you with all their life issues, right? It's going to affect your progress. You said that you wanted to write over the summer and you wanted to write a chapter at least once a month. Um, and now you haven't even, you're in the third month and you're still on the first chapter. That's affecting your progress. It's influencing your process, the writing process. You're writing a novel, or you're writing a script, or you are writing a self-help book. That takes time to think about how to arrange that, how to structure the characters, figure out what the theme is going to be, what the premise is going to be, what the characters are going to be. Okay, that's process. That's your writing process. But then if that person keeps coming along and you keep entertaining that person and tolerating their distraction, it's going to affect your progress. All right, so that's jealousy. Envy. I don't like the fact that you have this gift and talent, and my goal is to separate you from it, which will affect your long term progress, if any. So, separating you from it is trying to divide you from it. So instead of coming over to the house and sitting down and distracting me at the house, which influences my process, you decide to take me out of the house and we go to the club, or we go on a trip, or we do everything but the thing that I set out to do. So I'm separating you from it. If you see a person who is doing well in their business, okay, they are a business owner, whatever the business is, and then the person, their friend, is jealous, so they'll try to influence the process, try to distract them from the everyday administrative business day-to-day stuff that they need to pay attention to. Okay, so then the envy part of it would be them trying to separate them from it. Sometimes that's through violence, sometimes that's through throwing a man at them. You'll have people who you'll have family members who give you try to introduce you to a man who is destructive, who's very self-destructive. So then what happens is you get all preoccupied with that man. He becomes abusive because that's who he is. Uh, and instead of getting out of that relationship, you try to make it work. So that means you getting so far away from the thing that you started and you wanted to stay with and stick with, to the point that he kills you. So now he has perpetually separated you from your talent and gift. You're dead. It could be a person in jail or something like that. Now, in jail or in prison, you can pick back up that gift and talent. The problem is that you're in jail and in prison. But that's the difference in my understanding of jealousy and envy. One is to influence your process, whatever process is necessary. That's why you have to look at the process of anything you're trying to do. If you want to give a year to exercising, okay, okay. Sometimes leaning on someone as an accountability partner is a good thing. So then, when that person is not available, it's influencing your process. Okay, but then you can pick it back up and get back on track so that it does not fully affect your progress. But if the person is always tearing you down, here it is, you're trying to do a year to exercise and lose weight, and they're tearing you down, and it's affecting you emotionally to the point that you don't want to go out to the gym. They have now separated you from your goal. They have separated you from that particular goal, and now it's going to affect your long-term progress. So people provoke you to abandon. They do it to abandon you, and they get you to try to abandon whatever it is you're trying to do. And the goal is to get you to abandon your gifts and talents. People provoke you to become the scapegoat. So the goal is to create an emotional stuck. And the scapegoating dynamic comes from the immediate family dynamic. That's where you actually get your practice. You don't get your practice. You don't go all the way through your 18 years of development to then get to 19 and you're in the workforce and someone's scapegoating you. You wouldn't be able to recognize it. No, you get practice when you are a child. It's your parent who scapegoats you. You become the person that is isolated. If you are, you can be one of multiple siblings, or you can be just one, a person, just one child. And the goal is to isolate you, to scapegoat you for every problem that parent is having, right? It could be a parent, a caregiver, it could be a teacher. The teacher calls you out and makes you look bad in front of everybody else. It's something in them that is jealous of you. It's something in them that they need to actually learn and change and grow, but they refuse. And so instead of actually trying to learn and change and grow, they would rather just scapegoat you. That's why we have racism. That's why we have systemic racism. Racism and systemic racism are the tools that people use to kind of scapegoat a certain group, typically the black race, right? And this can be in any country, on any continent. The goal is, there's some jealousy aspect of it there's some envy aspect of it there's some hostility, there's some ideal that they don't want to change. If you are using racism to navigate your life, there's something in you that you don't want to change. And it's, a lot of times it has something to do with emotional regulation. Racist and racism and all these different types of supremacy ideals, they usually come from a place of pride, but it also, in my mind, comes from the toddler syndrome. Like the toddler who falls out on the floor. And here it is, you're trying to tell the toddler it's time to change, it's time for you to do better, it's time for this and that or whatever. And the toddler doesn't want to do it. It could be in the terrible twos, it can be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. I don't know. They're no longer a toddler by a certain age. But they started somewhere to me at toddler. That's where they have autonomy, because they can't fall out of the bed as a baby. It's only when they learn how to walk and they kind of reason and they see what's going on, and that if they fall and you come and rescue them, they know that if they fall, you will come and rescue them. And that's why I say it's the toddler syndrome. It's something that I'm thinking about as I am recording this, because then think about the toddler. The toddler falls out on the floor and then cries and kicks his legs, and all the toddler is doing is waiting for you to come and get it. But babies do this as well. That's why the psychology term attachment falls under secure attachment and insecure attachment. that how you respond, how the parent or caregiver responds to the baby will determine what type of attachment that child has. And so if it's a secure attachment, the parent responds to the child in a reasonable time. The parent doesn't let the child just cry and not respond, like with food or milk or holding the child. But if it's an insecure attachment, the parent or caregiver would just let the child cry and respond to the child, to the baby on its own time. And so the child could be in the baby could be in the crib for a long time, just crying and crying and crying. And then after so much time, the parent or caregiver will go and hold the baby. So then both of those babies to me could turn into toddlers that have issues, that are toddlers that fall out on the floor. Both of them, even with both having one having a secure attachment and the other having an insecure attachment, they could still do that. But it depends then on the type of parenting style. So like I mentioned in all of my video lessons, you have authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and uninvolved. And you can Google search, conduct a Google search, and type in parenting styles, and you'll get different types. But those are the four that tend to be the most popular. The authoritative is one type of parent who would design teachable moments. Uh, that parent does grant autonomy. Uh, uh, the child has reasonable um, ways to handle life, right? They are taught reasonable ways to handle life. The authoritarian parent is what you see a lot of times in these authoritarian dictator type governments. Their attitude is do it because I said so. Do it because I said so. And so there are no teachable moments. There's less autonomy. The parent sows hostility and anger and bitterness in the child, and then it's reflected in how the child conducts himself or herself outside of the home environment. Then permissive is basically what it suggests. The parent just is permissive in how he or she is raising the child. So the child has a lot of autonomy, not a lot of direction. And then uninvolved is just what it means. They are not involved in the child's life. They are parents. The child knows that the parent knows that it has parents, but there's no real involvement with the child. This is what you might see with nannies and other people taking care of the kids. Okay, so then the goal is to create an emotional stuck. So if you look at this pic with the quicksand, this is what it reminds me of, emotional stuck, when you don't know how to get out of something emotionally. Someone keeps provoking you to be a scapegoat. So the scapegoated person, there's like three types of children, if I can remember. The golden child, um, the the scapegoated child. Then there's another that I can't remember right now, but there are three types of children, right? And so the scapegoat is the one who is always isolated, can't depend on. That's a person who is uh, reared as a insecure attachment. There's no one to depend on. They get to a point. I think it's avoidant attachment, part of the insecure attachment category, that they don't even call for help because they know they can't get help from anybody. So there's really no need to call for help, right? They'll stay in that emotional stuck until they self-assess and figure out what's really going on. Because the more they try to reach after a person to understand who they are, the same person who created them as a scapegoat, the more that person just continues to scapegoat them. They continue to, and scapegoating is essentially saying that you are a problem that cannot be fixed. And so I'm going to now project all of my problems on you because I don't really want to handle problems anymore. And since you are the problem child and the problem, then I'm going to project all of my problems on you, and you're going to bear all the problems for the whole family. So they'll isolate you, put you off to the side, not respond to you. And if they do respond to you, it's with a big sigh and a huff and a puff and hostility. And they act like they are doing you a favor. And then they'll push you back off to the side. They may call you names. They try to make fun of you within the family unit. They'll do everything that they can to to support and validate the belief you are a problem that cannot be resolved. It doesn't matter if you are if God designed you as a solution. You may be the very fact that they're calling you a problem and treating you like a problem suggests that you're actually a solution to the problem. Meaning that the scapegoated child is usually the person who is going to break the generational curses, is going to be the generational change. The person who is saying it's time now to go a different direction. We've been going this direction where every one of our 12-year-old, 13-year-old girls got pregnant. Now, this new generation, we need to do that all. We need to do all we can to learn better from the situation. So, a scapegoat, a person or thing taking the blame for others, that's involuntary right in the beginning, and then it might actually become voluntary when it becomes voluntary is usually the person who becomes a people pleaser after that, who volunteers their time without even asking, right? Then quicksand, a bad or dangerous situation from which it is hard to escape. So if their goal is to create an emotional stuck, they're positioning you in such a way that you can escape, meaning that we don't want you to escape. It's like tying somebody to a tree. And when you get upset and when you get frustrated in life, when you get turned around in life, you decide to now go get that whip and whip that person who is tied to the tree. And you get your release. You feel better about yourself. You feel like you have been, you have done something constructive with your life, and now you can go back in the house and cook some food and eat some food and watch a movie. And then some time will pass, and you'll feel frustrated with life again. And remind you, the person is still tied to the tree. The person hasn't left the tree yet. The person is still tied to the tree. You feel all good about yourself, but then something happens at the job, or something happens with one of the other children, or something happens with you. You feel sick, or something like that. You don't feel like you can get out of your own emotional stuff. So instead of addressing your emotional stuff, you go back, you go get the whip, you you walk outside to the tree where the person is tied to the tree, and you whip. It could be one whip, it could be two whips, it could be three whips, however long it takes for you to get the release. Now, the person is emotionally stuck at that tree, not only emotionally, but now physically stuck. And that person is taking all the whips, taking all the hurt, taking all the pain of the family unit. But when you think about racism and racist and white supremacy, it's the same thing that happened with black people, Africans, right? They were tied to trees or they were hung from trees. And so all that is, to me, it has its root in toddler behavior, not being able to get whatever you want. And instead of addressing your situation and addressing you and who you are as an individual, you decide to project all of your frustrations on that person, on that one African, on that one black person, tie them to a tree and whip them. And once you get your release, once you get your release, you can go back in, put on a pot of stew, put on a pot of coffee, eat right, and that person is still tied to the tree. So that's what's going on with the scapegoated person. That person right there is in that quicksand, emotional quicksand, physical quicksand, financial quicksand. The person who keeps calling you, asking you for money, they are creating you as a scapegoat. It's time for them to address their own money issues, but they don't want to. It's easier to project onto you their financial mismanagement and say you need to solve my problem, while they're also saying at the same time you are a problem that cannot be solved. If that isn't irony, I don't know what is. So So their goal then is just to create the emotional stuff that they are basically in. When someone is trying to scapegoat you, a lot of times it could be that they've been scapegoated, because you do what you are, right? You do what has been done to you. You do what is um, very familiar to you. Someone scapegoated you, so now you're going to project scapegoating onto somebody else. But all you end up doing is being in a state of hamster's wheel. You're both running on the same exact hamster's wheel, and you might as well just be running together. You might Both of you as hamsters should get into the same cage on the same hamster's wheel and run together. That goes back to the agreement that I talked about in a previous slide. That when someone is blaming you for everything in their life, they're not taking responsibility for their own life. But then when you decide to take responsibility for their life and become a people pleaser, you're no different than they are. That means you are abandoning other areas of your life. So I want you to think about this, because the quicksand pick here is very appropriate. I actually wanted to do something else, but I think this is the most appropriate, because people who usually are in quicksand or emotional stuck don't really reach out for help. They would rather stay wherever they are. So that means it can be on both sides. That the person who is projecting problems onto you could be a person who is emotionally stuck. And then when you receive all of their problems, their projection of problems onto you, you become emotional stuck. So people provoke you to become the scapegoat. The goal is to create an emotional stuck. People provoke you to become a prodigal. The goal is to get you to run. Now, this is something that definitely has a lot to do in the family dynamic that you get sort of practice in before you become an adult. If you have ever run away from your family, your house, right? Stuff was getting too hard for you to deal with in your family dynamic. And so you just decided to run away. But whatever the situation is, you just name it however way you want to do it. Well, if you're not immediately corrected once you do come back to the house, you'll realize that running away worked. It don't seem like it should have that kind of understanding. But if you didn't immediately get a whooping, like for me, I ran away one time from my mom. My mom was it was hard dealing with her. It was always a hostile environment. I was actually the scapegoated child. I was mistreated. I was isolated. Right, there was a lot of hostility. And one day she said she was going to whoop me. And she had always whipped me, and I guess I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't take it at time. So I took the key that I had to my house, to the house, and I left out the back door and I ran away. And I ran to where my aunt lived. We lived in the same apartments, but she lived in a different part of the complex. And so I got to her side of the apartment complex, and I sat down on the stairs. And I don't know, I just couldn't take it. I cried, I did whatever I did. Then I looked at my key, and then I realized I needed to go back. So then I got up from on the stairs and I knocked on my aunt's door, and she was shocked to see me, and she was scared for me as well. And so then she drove me back to my mom's house, and then my mom was visibly scared, crying and everything, and I think she hugged me, and then that was it. But she didn't sit me down and have a conversation about it. She didn't go get the belt. She didn't stick to what she said she was going to do, which is whip me. So then because she didn't do that, maybe something on the inside of me said that what I did worked. Now, I didn't have the language for that. I didn't even think about it like that. It wasn't until I started to reflect on my childhood as an adult that I realized that's what I was thinking at that time. Because then I didn't run anymore after that, but I did run later in life from other types of situations. On a side note, my mom realized that in me running away, she could use that to her advantage when she was trying to get back at her ex-husband. She would have him come pick me up when she was having her moments, her um, um, frustration type moments. Have him come pick me up. I stay over the weekend with his new wife, but she was using that situation to kind of um, involve herself in in his new marriage. And so then she would call and say, call the house and basically say, come on back, come on back. You come back, we can go shopping. Everything will be okay. Everything will be all right. So then we got into that pattern. So I started running. She didn't correct me. We didn't have a sit down, teachable moment, correction moment. And then she started using it to her advantage to the point that I got an adult and I started running. Okay. So then when I got to high school and I graduated from high school, she was about to get married again. And she didn't tell me to leave, but she provoked me in such a way that I knew I had to go because she was not going to bring another man in there. And I'm 19 years old, just kind of graduated from high school, don't know what to do with myself. And so the way she put it, you know, um, I ended up running. And so I ran, moved in with a boy, and then that situation did not turn out right. Then I ended up calling my father. So now I've moved from she calling my stepfather and trying to involve herself in his marriage to me now calling me, getting myself into trouble, running, and then calling him. Okay. So then a lot of still running in certain ways. I stuck with school. See, you can have a runner in you but still accomplish stuff on in other areas of your life, but that doesn't mean that you have addressed the runner in you. Procrastination is kind of like a type of running because you don't get anything done. So I moved the running to procrastination, right? Adopted a whole mindset, core value system, everything. I actually called myself the queen of procrastination. But I ended up realizing that I lost a lot of opportunities because I procrastinated. And so then I had a breakdown. I didn't necessarily have the typical breakdown that people would have and then they have to go to a mental health facility, but I just emotionally broke down and said I can't do this anymore. So that ended that particular process, that reflection ended that running there. But it wasn't until much later in life when I really truly realized that I struggled with running and that I had to begin addressing it. And a lot of times when we run, it is because we are afraid to address something with the person who is provoking us to run. Because then the run will turn into you becoming a prodigal. And if anyone understands the prodigal story, they understand that he wanted all his money now. The father was going to leave an inheritance for him and his brother, and but he didn't want to wait. He wanted all his money now. So then he goes and wastes his life, becomes homeless, and he's sitting in a pig pen and realized that his father had more that he could be a part of. And so then he returned home and was willing to work, but the father went out, hugged him, and welcomed him back into the fold. But he was a prodigal. The prodigal is a mindset that opposes God, that is very disobedient, that's a runner, that struggles in other areas, right? So prodigal, spending money or resources freely, recklessly, and wastefully, meaning that there is no purpose. Runner, a person who runs especially in a specified way. A specified way is a prodigal. A specified way could be in your finances. You know you need to address your finances. You know you need to work better on your finances. A specified way could be a person who always has to live with someone. That's why you have a whole bunch of homosexuals who instead of trying to get their lives together, get a job, keep a place, stay in that place, pay for that place themselves, they would rather hop from house to house to house. And then when they get older, 50, 60, 70 years old, they don't have anything to show for it. That's running. That's running in a specified way. They may not necessarily be spiritual, biblical prodigals, but they are prodigal to their own lives, right? So when they provoke you to become a prodigal, is the goal is to get you to run. So they'll provoke you. Anytime anyone has ever been bullied, what did you do? You tried to run away from the situation. You didn't try to stick and fight because the person was too big for you. And a lot of times the person had a crew. So then once the bully started to fight you, then everybody else will start fighting you. So you felt like all of us have felt who have been bullied. The best option was to run. But the more you keep doing that, you keep running and keep running and keep running, and you're never really accomplishing anything. That only works cinematically, like for Forrest Gump. where Jenny is telling him to run, and then it turns into an opportunity for him to run playing football in college, and then it turns into an opportunity for him to run um, in the army, in the military, and then he ends up getting out. And then when Jenny Jenny rejects him almost for the last time, he ends up doing this cross country running, right? And that's still a runner. Now, that is him running out of the grief of dealing with Jenny and frustrations out of life. That's a specified way. But then he realized he ended up having to come back home. That eventually he was going to have to come back home, address the absence of Jenny, grieve that, ride it out, and then one day she just showed up. Oh no, one day she sent a letter, and he went to meet her, and then she came back, and then she died shortly after that. But Jenny was running, and Jenny was running because of what she was exposed to as a child, and so she kept running and running and running and running into drugs and bad men and abusive relationships, probably sexual violations, things like that, to the fact that she got AIDS. That's what stopped her. That's what slowed her down and stopped her. And well, having a child slowed her down. AIDS stopped her. So a person can, when people provoke you to become a prodigal, the goal is to get you to run. Is it could be in different types of ways. You just have to determine if it's a runner in you, because if you find yourself acting recklessly, whether it's spending or just acting in that way, that's likely you being a prodigal. But you usually become a prodigal when you refuse instruction, when you are disobedient. There's an instruction. I'm going to leave this to you for your inheritance. This is not for you to have right now. You say, no, I want it right now. But you don't have any guidance, any instruction, any direction on how to spend it. So then you end up spending it recklessly. That's the biblical version of prodigal. But you can run again in any other area of your life, struggling, not realizing that you are running. So people provoke you to become a prodigal. The goal is to get you to run. So, as a solution, when it comes to people who provoke a response out of you, you now need to adopt a solution where you provoke yourself to solution oriented projects. That you realize that this is a project that requires a solution. That means inherent in me is problem solver. So whatever someone else has said about me has been a lie. There is some truth in what they have said. Not them calling me a problem, but there may be problems that I need to take note of. Again, you may be the generational person to bring about change. So then, if the problem is all of our girls, each each generation has gotten pregnant at 13 years old. Okay, we need to solve that problem. Okay, I'm the first one who did not get pregnant, so therefore I'm the generational change. I didn't get pregnant at 13, so I surpassed them. That doesn't make me better than them. It's just that I just invalidated that generational curse. That's a problem that needed to be solved. All of us in our family, all the women have gone through at least two divorces, and now we're working on a third marriage. Okay, one of us, the next generation, needs to get a husband, or the husband get married and stay married to death do you part, because that's the command. So somewhere, some of us are not understanding that that's a command. So therefore, if you're in an abusive situation, no, you're not going to stay in that situation. No, I got it. I get it. However, it's the first choice that you need to be mindful of, because you did not have to choose the abuser. Abusers show you who they are early. They do not wait 5, 10, 15 years into the marriage to begin abusing you. They started to abuse you even when you were dating and courting. You just ignored it. It looked like love. It looked like love. And so you didn't pay attention to it, but they were abused. They said something stupid about your clothes. They said something about your hair. They acted like you had to submit to them. They punished you. They exacted some vengeance on you. That's all abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological, mental, or spiritual. It's all abuse. So when you are thinking about provoking yourself, meaning that you are now going to shed off whatever has been said about you in a negative way to keep you in an emotional stuck, but you're now reassessing what has been said about you to look at it from a logical lens in terms of life and how people get turned around by life. And so then that, when you look at the different problems that they were trying to call you and make you out to be, those problems could be bullet points that you create as a woman's workshop, a writing workshop, anything like that. Now those problems, instead of staying in emotional stuff, now those problems serve as guidelines for what you want to do later in writing a book or taking a psychology course, working on a job. They serve as like a checklist. It can be a checklist, it can be a light bulb, it can be a number of things that you can use to guide you on your new path, right? So then when you provoke yourself to solution oriented projects, you're saying that you are a problem solver and that the goal is to set boundaries with family, friends, and romantic relationships. And there are boundaries, and then there are life areas where you may need to set boundaries. So, boundaries, limits, or guidelines people set within their relationships that define what is safe, acceptable, and reasonable ways other people can behave with them. So, in other words, this is a boundary that you cannot cross. Don't cross this boundary. If you see a person who says, I don't care about your boundary, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, then that is a person that you may give the benefit of the doubt, have a sit down conversation and discussion, and sort of correct the behavior in that way, right? Not telling them that you are correcting the behavior, but telling them, no, I'm telling you, this is what I don't like. But if they let time go, and a lot of times people who like to push their own way, they let just a week pass, sometimes a day, and they turn around and do exactly the same thing again, then that is something that you're going to have to make a decision about. Either that person is going to stay in your life and you're going to remain friends and still struggle with them crossing your boundaries, or you're going to say no, no longer we no longer can be friends because I keep trying to tell you that this you are crossing a boundary and you are wanting to cross and you want to continue to do so. Always remember, abusers escalate. So as much as they'll say, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, but then you'll be riding in the car with them and they'll say, okay, let me go to the store right quick. And they go into the store and then they don't rob the store. And then they have you as the getaway driver. People escalate. Every time you try to set a boundary, they get upset about that. It's the toddler syndrome. They get upset about that. They don't like it. So then they'll try it. They come from it. They approach you from a different angle. Okay, and so it comes in, it's in different ways. Like if it's a finances issue, here it is, a person needs to ask you $25 per week so they can pay their gas. Instead of looking at their finances and setting aside $25 a week so they can make sure that they can pay their gas, right? And so there was a time I had to set boundaries with my mother. I had school money. I ran my mouth and told her how much money I was getting from school money, and she wanted to borrow money. And so then, like a people pleaser at that time, I said, "Oh no, I just give it to you." So then I would give her money out of that check. And so then by the time I got to the end of the semester, I didn't have my rent for the next month before the next round of scholarship money came. And so then I would turn around and ask her for money. What was a gift to her, she made a loan to me. So not only did she loan it to me, which I had to pay that back, then she would ask for more money. So then I had to start praying and ask God, Lord, I can't keep doing this. And I didn't know I needed to pray, but I needed help. I just couldn't handle it on my own. So I prayed. And so it was God who told me, tell her I still gave her, I mean, I still gave her money, but it was a loan this time. I said, and I told her, I said, yeah, this is going to be my February rent or March rent or something like that that I'm giving you. That changed the dynamic of our relationship. She became even more hostile. She was already hostile, right? She was already hostile from the time I was a child, but she became even more hostile in that situation because then she had to pay it back. And so when she realized she had to pay it back, she kind of stopped asking, or she still asks, but then I had to keep telling her that it was this or that or whatever. So then it came to a head one later where I couldn't do it anymore because then I was about to enter my correction period, so I didn't have the money to give her. And so then she couldn't get money from her. And so then she, because of all those times that she was crying wolf, she actually began to struggle. That's why it never benefits you to give in to people, because eventually life has a way of coming back around and sitting you down and correcting you, because it was wrong for you to do it in the first place. And now you are, I missed all that opportunity to learn how to manage my own finances because I was so busy trying to cover other people, not just her. So then when I became homeless, and I actually had to end up going and live with her for a time, um, um, when I became homeless, um, it was a lot. It was all a lot of it was due to me trying to cover everybody else but myself. And so you have to learn how to prioritize. You don't have the money to help people, even if your rent is $1,200 and you have $2,400 in the bank. You may say, well, oh yeah, I got the money, sure, let me give it to you. No, you don't. The $1,200 that you have is for the current rent. The $1,200 that's left over in the bank account is for the next month's rent. The only time you can really determine if you can do anything for someone, especially financially, is how, I mean, if you have $7,500 to $10,000 in the bank. But then that is also predicated on your emergency savings goal. If your emergency savings goal was 10,000, you don't have it. Unless that person is going through a natural disaster situation, you don't have it. But if you have $10,000 in the bank, but your emergency savings goal was 7,500, then yes, you have it. You take from the 2,500 and you set goals with that. You're not going to give the whole 2,500 either. So provoke yourself to solution oriented projects is basically suggesting that the people who have called me a problem have been lying to me all this time, and that I'm actually a solution, a change, a generational change maker. At the same time, I can figure out what it is that they were trying to project onto me and use it as a guide to bring about change. So now my goal is to set boundaries with family, friends, and romantic relationships while I develop in this area. And so your life area is going to be mind, body, and soul always. Finances, emotions, mental health, career or business, house, home, and life. Your life. This is your life. And you have every right to your life. And you don't, and no one has the right to take your life and assume control of your life. We stay in a lot of these types of toxic situations too long, to the point that the person ends up taking our life, or we become homeless as a result, and that's not right. So provoke yourself to solution oriented projects, something that you can sink your teeth into and study and love and grow from, and that's going to require you to set boundaries with family, friends, and romantic relationships. So now we have returned to the title of this um, series, Shake the Dust Off Your Feet. And so then the goal becomes for you to walk away. Now that you have assessed areas of your life where you were scapegoated as a problem, or you became an emotional runner, or you struggled with procrastination, or people projected you as a problem, you're going to have to shake the dust off your feet. That means you're going to have to walk away. And so when you look at this pic here with the two arrows pointing backward to the person who is walking forward, that person is walking away. The person can no longer solve the problems of others. That person is going to have to make a decision, or that person has made a decision that they're going to walk away. Leave the arrows to their own devices. The arrow, the right arrow or the left arrow, whoever that person represents, whatever entity that represents they're going to have to solve their own issues. They're going to have to solve their own problems. You can't solve it. And so when you're thinking about walking away, it requires a self-assessment, a self-reflection, and a healing process. So for one, self-assess means process of evaluating oneself or one's actions. Self-reflect, process of taking time to evaluate your thoughts, feelings, behaviors, motivations, desires. And then healing, process of becoming sound and healthy again. The key phrase or the key word is process. So just because you walk away from something doesn't necessarily mean that it's done. You can walk out of an abusive relationship, but your process now begins to self-assess and self-reflect and heal. Why in the world did you attract that type of person? That's not victim blaming. That's actually suggesting that a lot of times what is in someone else is on the inside of us. Meaning that if you are attracting an abuser, that means you have had some exposure to abuse. And so you pick and choose who and what looks like you on the inside. A lot of times we have been emotionally sleeping because of some trauma, so that when we attract that devil, we don't know that we are attracting that devil because of something was going on with us, because we never knew that we needed to resolve. We only understood that mama doesn't like me. I need to get out of mama's house. That's it. So we get out of mama's house, but then we run into a devil, or we run into the wrong friend who gets us into stuff, and we're trying to figure out how is it that I got how did I run from one situation to the next, because it's something on the inside of you that is troubling you, but it's hard to address because it's painful, and it will cause you to have to enter a grieving process. And so uh, the goal of walking away is a process in and of itself. Just because you leave the house and lock the door doesn't mean you have fully walked away. You have to walk away from your thinking, or thinking that was imparted into you, thinking that was projected onto you, core values and systems and all different types of things that uh, uh, all that mistreatment, because a lot of times if you don't address the mistreatment, you're going to mistreat somebody else. If you were taken for granted, someone is going to take you for granted. If you were taken advantage of, someone's going to take advantage of you. So when you're walking away, you are evaluating all of the systems that you were a member of and that you later participated in as a people pleaser. You were a member of it because you were a victim, because you were projected to be the scapegoat, which turned you into a victim because of the abuse. But then once you got older and thinking and logically thinking about it, you became a people pleaser to try to sustain that very system, and also perpetuated outside of the immediate family system. So then you're in college and doing exactly the same thing. You meet exactly your same family dynamic in the group of friends you have chosen to be friends with. That's what happened to me. There was a friendship group that I was a part of. One of the girls was kind of like a leader in her own right. Right. She called herself to be the leader. And then there was one or two guys, two or three girls, including myself. And the girl who was the leader was the one who asked me to roommate with her. And I didn't realize that she was my mother. It later revealed itself, right? But her mannerisms, her attitude, how she pit all of us against each other, how she talked behind my back, how she betrayed me, that was my mother. So then I attracted my mother. Then I attracted a person who was like my cousin. I attracted the two men who were like my brothers. I attracted my stepfather, who was kind of manipulative, right? And so I attracted in friends in college people who came from my family dynamic. So once I began to self assess my own complicity, because I still chose them as friends. Then I began to self reflect on what I did in those relationships. So then I attracted my stepfather. My stepfather was not abusive, But my stepfather, my real father was abusive towards my mother. My stepfather wasn't necessarily abusive, but he didn't take accountability. He didn't take responsibility for his actions with my mother. So then I attracted that person. He would whine about my mother not doing this and other what, but he was the one who left her for somebody else and left her with a child with kids to raise, right? And so then I began to attract those types of men. So that became a self-reflection process, and then it all came to a brick wall with the last relationship that I had, 2013 to 2016, where there was a devil, and that was an enemy of to me. And so as a result of being in that relationship and him cheating and him doing different things to me later, when I finally exited him out of my house and out of my heart and everything like that, I felt the mental strength leave me. One day I was standing at the gate at the end of the apartment complex, and I had had a conversation with his ex who kept coming back and forth and he kept playing around with, and she told me that he was still trying to mess with her. And when I was standing at the gate listening to her, I felt breath come out of my body. It's kind of like a cat with 9 lives, and then if he lose one, he has 8 more. That's what it felt like. I felt breath come out of my body. When I finally got him out in 2016, I felt mental energy, literally mental energy leaving me. It took years to get over that. And so that once he was out 2016, all the way until 2024, and now I'm actually entering my healing process. I didn't get involved with anybody. I didn't. I just went to work. I did projects. I did everything like that. But it is in 2024, from all that time in 2024 is when I'm now going through my healing process. And now I'm doing it. I'm not letting no one get in the way of my healing. You're not getting in the way. I'm not putting in the way. And I'm going to take as much, all the time I need to heal and to get over all these toxic situations that have threatened. They threaten your very existence. They threaten your mind. They threaten your heart, your body, your emotions, your mental health, your finances, your walk with God. All that, they affect all of that, and threaten the viability of all of that. So when you are shaking the dust off your feet, is essentially once you realize you cannot um, get that situation to change. The person doesn't want to change. The person doesn't want to. They keep wanting to cross boundaries. They want to keep keeping you in emotional stuck. They don't want to see you different. Things like that. It's time to shake the dust off your feet. They don't want to receive you, and essentially they don't want to change. Because usually, if you're the person who's always scapegoated, you're usually the change agent. You're the generational change person. And when they don't want to change, it's time to shake the dust off your feet, because you can get stuck and trying to help them and trying to believe in them and ride and die and run for them and march for them and do all these different things when they don't give a rat's butt at all. All they want to do is keep you down wherever they want you to be down. So then your goal becomes to walk away. All right. So thank you very much for listening to this series. Visit, subscribe, and follow so you can find my website, reginayfavors.com. I'm on YouTube, of course, youtube.com/ at Regina Y Favors. And then my Amazon author page is amazon.com/author/ Regina Y Favors. So do take some time to think about some of the ideas that I went through in this particular Shake the Dust Off Your Feet series. I don't know if I'm going to have a book component. I'm not quite sure just yet, but it is something that I am considering. So I do hope that you will listen to the full series. I'm going to have it in full as one video length, and then I'm going to have it separate as well. So thank you very much for listening. Please visit, subscribe, and follow. Have a great day.